I miss crack. The crack days were so much easier than the fentanyl days.
Because why is that?
Because it's that much more lethal.
Crack is.
Yeah.
Oh, fentanyl.
Fentanyl is much more, the crack epidemic was a thing. But then when the pain epidemic hit, that's when we really started losing people.
So what's the difference between like a crack death and a fentanyl death?
Well, I mean, it's basically going to be a cardiac event. Fentanyl, you stop breathing. That's a very powerful drug. Back to the opioid, the docs were giving out medication. People were getting addicted, and then the government came in and stopped it, and they just cut everybody off, and they made it to where physicians could get in a lot of trouble if they overprescribed. And then I think they came back after that just recently and said, hey, we didn't mean not to treat people with pain, because then you have a lot of people turning to heroin. When you're taking opiates and you're on them for, 5 or 6 years and you're addicted, and then one day you just can't get any, a lot of people turn to heroin. We really didn't have a great system to get people into rehabs. If you want to commit somebody for drug abuse, they have to go voluntarily. And you can imagine that not everyone wants to go. Another role of the coroner's office, we have the ability to remove you from we can take you and send you somewhere against your will. Yeah, and that's the other arm of the coroner's office.
Oh, I didn't know that at all. But how do you get those calls? Because you think the coroner or death investigators are just getting called about death. So who's calling you?
Yeah,
to be like, hey,
law enforcement, they know that.
Oh, they say, hey, this guy over here, we think he should be 5150 or something?
Yeah, he needs to be in a hospital.
Okay.
We need to get him to an ER and into a psych hospital.
Can you guys help us with that?
Right. So that we fill out paperwork, the coroner actually signs off on the paperwork, and then the police can go and remove you against your will and bring you to an ER. But we send all these patients to the ER, and a lot of times they're let go. I can have a 18-year-old girl that's shooting heroin and smoking crack and drinking, and she gets to the ER and they say, well, yeah, you have a problem, but drugs are your choice, so therefore I'm going to discharge you. And the reasoning behind that is we have a broken system. I don't know how you fix that. But so then they get to the ER, and the ER doctors know I can't force this person to go to rehab. You know that if you want to quit, it has to be your decision. So a lot of those patients are let go. And then unfortunately, we'll get a coroner call on an OD from one of those exact patients that we sent to the ER.
So you see a lot of repeat offender, hypothetically it's repeat offenders when these people show back up or repeatedly have harmed themselves with drugs, and then a lot of second, third times it's death?
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, most patients, I say most patients, a lot of patients have a psychiatric diagnosis. So when there's a dual diagnosis, you can put them in a rehab, in a psych facility. But even that is a 5 to 6 day stay, and then they're discharged. Yeah. And then they have to get home and take their medication that was prescribed, which they don't. So then they end up coming back through their coroner's office and going back to the ER. Some of these guys on drugs, there was one that really that was really hard to deal with recently, was a veteran. I know his family. They had played some audio recordings of this guy just crying at night, saying he needed help, but then he would turn to meth and get high and then refuse help. Yeah, I mean, this guy had kills under his belt, and we don't want to label people, well, he's just a meth junkie. I mean, these people all have problems, and they didn't grow up saying, I want to be this person. But this one in particular, went to Iraq and killed some people, and now he's back and he's messed up and he can't make the right decisions, and eventually he'll die. But he has to ultimately agree to go get help. So it's a hard process on some. Yeah. We lose people.
Yeah, and it's tough waiting for somebody to get well enough or have enough of a breakthrough their own vision or perspective to see that they need help. That's the hardest thing to try, and you can't really influence anybody, I mean, you can, but it's just, nobody wants to hear that. People don't want to hear often you need help. They just don't accept it, or,
you
or
can
they're
try.
Too drugged up sometimes. Yeah, and you do interventions and stuff, and sometimes people don't want that.
I tell families, because we have them where, the families will send them, they'll go to a psych unit, then they'll get out and they'll die. either by suicide or drug overdose. And a lot of times I'll tell families, look, you have to try. You have to try. You can't force your child to go to drug rehab. A lot of people are nervous about sending people because the sheriffs show up and they put you in a court and they bring you to the ER, and a lot of families just are scared to do it. And I always tell them, you know, we don't know the outcome of this, but you have to try.
Yeah.
You have to get them in front of somebody professional. And if they get out and they keep doing the same thing over and over, at the end of the day, you know you tried.
Yeah.